Right, so I'm going to start talking about the command Extrude Crv. So I'm going to open up this file, this Extrude Crv file. I'm going to zoom in on this first rectangle over here, or this first square. And if I select it, I can see that it's a joined square. It's also a closed curve. So I'm going to type in the command Extrude Crv, EXTRUDECRV. Press enter, select the curves, press enter. If I move my mouse and just click on the screen, and now I've extruded that curve to make a box. I just deleted it. If I type in extrude again, extrude curve, and if I move my mouse above the grid and I type in a distance, for example, I type in 12 and hit enter, it's now moved, it's now extruded this curve 12 inches up. And the curve that I started off with was a 12 inches by 12 inches, and so now it's 12 inches tall. If my mouse happened to be below the grid, when I typed in the extrude curve command, and I type in 12 and hit enter, because my mouse was below the grid, it's still extruding in 12 inches without me having to go negative 12, only because my mouse was below the grid. So again, when you're extruding something, just pay attention to where your mouse is. Make sure if it's above the grid or below the grid. Another option you might want to look into when you're extruding the curve, by default, you should probably have it where it says solid equals yes. If you have it where it says solid equals no, and you extrude the curve, it will leave the top and the bottom part off. So essentially, all you end up with is the four walls of the box. So again, just pay attention to your command line to see what option you have, either solid equals yes or solid equals no. In this next option, there are 4 individual curves, but what you'll notice is each one of the curves, the 2 endpoints always match. Like these 2 endpoints always match going around all 4 curves. So again, if you type in extrude curve, select all 4 of them, I'll snap up to here. It will still work as long as you have a closed curve. It doesn't matter if your curves are all joined or all separate. As opposed to this third example, if I do extrude curve, oops, I'm going to do extrude curve to all of them. Even though in this third example, I have solid equals yes clicked, as I'm trying to extrude it, it's still not working, mainly because it's not a closed curve. So I have all these individual pieces, but because I'm starting off with a curve that it's not closed, I see this gap over here. Even though I have the option to make this into a solid, it just will not make it into a solid because I do not have a closed curve. So I could either just draw a line, or I can use my fillet command to connect those, fill it with a radius of 0. And now that that's connected, and now I do not have an open curve, now when I extrude these, extrude curve, solid equals yes, it actually extrudes correctly. In this next example, I do extrude curve. I have solid equals on, solid equals yes turned on, and I extrude this up, and I don't see any gaps. I don't see any visible gaps, but it still did not give me a solid object. The main reason why is I can see over here, I have 2 surfaces and they overlap. I can see right here that they're overlapping. So if I look at my original curves, I'm going to pull these apart just slightly. And I can see that this part right here is where they overlapped. Again, when you're drawing your curves, you want to make sure that they're clean and you don't have anything that overlaps, because it will cause some issues eventually. So I'll just use fillet, close this off again. So now that this is one continuous curve, I should now be able to extrude this without and have the solid equals yes turned on. So again, as you're working on this, just make sure that you, as you're drawing, you have a closed curve, a continuous closed curve without any gaps or without any curves that overlap. And then when you do, your extrude command should work every time and give you an actual closed solid object.